So we spoke for the first time in August of 2022, which is crazy. It's over 3 years ago now. And that was kind of all about drugs, spirituality, near death experiences. I think it was the first time on the podcast where I was like, damn, I think I could kind of do this thing a little bit. Like that was fun. That was flowy. Uh, but nonetheless, and then we spoke again in November of 2023, kind of just talking all things business. So now sitting here like 3 years since our first conversation, crazy enough. Um, what do you think you've learned about life and business in those past 3 years?
Oh man, I could go.
Everything.
This could be hours. I think like I've learned so much. I look back at where was life at in 2022 from a business perspective specifically, and it was I wish I could go back to myself and tell myself a few things that I learned along the way. Real specific around the business, get your unit economics really tight. We were talking gross margin off air. You know, I would be going back, learning, talking all about that. I'd be talking about our FP&A side and forecasting and financing the business and how we look at that. Like, those are all be things that are, if only I told myself, hey, be aware of, have this dialed. Um, Learned a lot there. I think big picture that I look back over that 3 years and something that's been very present for me, just a mantra I've just been, it's like, it's never as good as you think and it's never as bad as you think. And that has been so true. The business is obviously, it's been 5 years now. So we have a, bit of historical tail to us, but it's still, I think what we've experienced in those 5 years, or even just you talk about these 3 years of when I first chatted with you to where we are today, we've probably gone through, our years have really equated to probably a 5 to 7 year cycle on most businesses. Um, you know, Going from parts of the business growing like crazy to other parts being impacted to, all sorts of stuff of this emerging industry. So, you know, I've learned a ton. I've learned a lot on leadership, uh, how to communicate, how not to communicate. Uh, and I think yeah, also just proud of us as an organization, self, what we've, what we have gone through in 3 years. And we could dive into if that's interesting. But I look back on that, it's like, man, we are a completely different organization than what we were doing over 3 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy what you said. Like, I mean, 5 years seems like no time in like the grand scheme of things for especially how fast you guys have grown. And so interesting how you said like, each year in the business has almost been like a 5 to 7 year cycle for uh someone else, obviously with that growth, things break, things are going maybe a little too fast for your own comfort. And I mean, something I've kind of more recently realized and then starting to kind of feel the effects of is like a little bit of the stress of running the business in the sense of like you're putting it all on the line, you're making bets and uh the money intervals are getting bigger and bigger and all this stuff and it's not always the easiest thing to deal with, and for so I was curious for you, like, when do you think was the stress at the highest when it was just like, the small team and you were doing kind of everything yourself, or kind of more now with the whole bigger numbers of everything, even though you do have a team, just like the scale of everything?
Yeah, I think, I mean, stress shows up for us all differently. Like what stress is stressful, like something that is stressful to me might not be stressful to someone else. I think for me, I'm most comfortable as a founder. And so like early stage is not stressful to me. That's a time that it's like mistakes are expected. Mistakes are, you move quick, you break stuff, you're testing, you're iterating. And so that's like a very comfortable phase for me. That's like, to me, there's no like failure there. And I think
Do you feel
failure
like
gets
you learn that now?
what
Like
did
you
I
only
learn
know
that
that in
now?
hindsight?
That's always, I think that's been present to me. This is my first time really, obviously, being in this kind of co-CEO position at this scale of a company. So that's newer to me. I'd done, I had been in founded previous company that was, had in its own regional market was some size, but not nearly of a, you know, national global recognition level from the scale. So it's like I've gone from like founder to, yeah, having to step into CEO and operating. And I think I like to live more in the visionary strategy side, and which is great and it's important in the role, but there's also the side of, the day-to-day execution, and being able to, communicate with our executives, communicate with our management team. Um, and so that's like I'm, founder, little less focused on details sometimes. Um, Stay in the big picture, but that's important, but I also have to get down and, be in the details. And so, um, I think the stress comes from, yeah, there's more visibility now. Like there's, I'd say when you're early phase, the exciting part is you can walk through every door and usually walk back. There's like truly things and decisions that probably won't break you. And it's true for us now, like decisions, but we need to be more intentional and conscientious of decisions that we're making of, is this a reversible decision? Or is this one where it's like we're really turning the boat here and we have to be very sound on this, and we are making a 6, 12, 18-month multi-year decision that there's, pretty tough to come back from. And so those are newer decisions where before everything's a short-term decision. You're just, you're in survival mode. And so I think it's just a different framing and way of processing challenges and communicating through, which is, um, there's a lot of fun to it because there's a ton of strategy. It's very, longer horizon thinking. Um, but that's been an evolution for myself.
Did you ever like think about yourself as a CEO, like business guy? Because it's so funny, like thinking about. I think back to our first conversation of nothing business related, and we were just talking all things ayahuasca and near death experiences and just all that stuff. And it seems like those are like almost like different energies in like not totally opposite energies, but in like a lot of ways, that person that's into, the ayahuasca and all that stuff isn't always that CEO business owner. Like do you feel like those are like it's a dichotomy of sorts?
Yeah, I think, yes, it can be. I think there's a lot of synergy. I mean, I genuinely think things I have developed through, psychedelics and, being intentional and my journeys there translate to the business world. There are fundamental truths into, um, leadership styles, communication, and like business is very like pragmatic. It's very rational, which is not psychedelic sometimes. So there is a different energy. There are, um, I would say psychedelics out of my life now completely? No, but is it a different tool and a different, like, used much, probably less frequently? Absolutely. So I think that's it has been, this season of my life is very business focused. This organization and how to, where we're going, what we're doing, how we're optimizing. It's very rational. And equally, there are times you got to step out and have kind of a separate vantage point from it, which I think is a skill set. But yeah, long story short, it's like I do think they can cross over, but it can also get very murky, and you need to know if you're going to incorporate those, like be very conscientious and understanding like where the lines of separation are.
Do you feel like it's been fun, this little new role of, I mean, obviously not new role, but new role in the sense of like now at the scale that it's at. Um, is it because there's a like I mean I know I glorify like I definitely in my head uh think that's like the coolest thing in the world, right? Like being the CEO of a $100 million, $200 million company. Like, is it enjoyable or is it, it's like shit, this is a job.
Great question, man. It varies. I think at the core, I am so grateful, honored, privileged to be leading this company in this sector and a category that we get to be the leaders in that's emerging, like all of that having a massive impact on people's life, having a massive impact on the organization. And business is fucking hard. Like it's I don't no matter who you see, there are 10 other things going on behind the scene that are business is almost like social media. It's like people present certain sides to it. I'm part of a multiple executive groups. And I'm in these groups because it's sometimes I feel, man, we have so many challenges and headwinds and struggles in the business. And I feel almost like damn, this is so hard. And then I go and I actually talk with founders and it's like, oh, this is the most normal thing. It's a way of me saying, yes, am I grateful I'm in this position? 100%. Do I wake up and get excited and what we get to work on? Yes. And, not skirting around it. It's like, it's hard. It's a challenge and there's curveballs and that's what entrepreneurship is, one day you're riding high and the other day you're, punched in the face. You didn't see it coming. Um, And so that's, I think, like I said at the beginning, my mantra has been, it's never as good as you think, it's never as bad as you think. And that's just like, stay steady, stay even keel. Um, so, um, yeah, that really sums up where things are at right now.
Dude, I'm glad you brought up business being fucking hard because it's something like I'm experiencing and I'm like very much in the thick of on a much smaller, much more early stage part of my business. But it's like I see so much and I fall victim to it. And it's crazy that, I'm so consciously aware of it and I still fall victim to it, which is I watch YouTube of entrepreneurs and I watch a little bit of TikTok and Instagram Reels. And, very often my feed is flooded with young guys who are quote unquote killing it. And there's this almost like perception, if they're selling a course or whatever it may be, that like, this is easy and you are an idiot or you suck at business if you are not, at this level, or whether it's said or just like kind of implied by the content. And I think so many young guys right now are kind of falling victim to this thing of, if my business isn't at XYZ in the first freaking 6 months of starting it, like I'm a piece of shit. I suck at business. When the reality is like shit is really hard and things take time. But we have just like so much success porn being thrown at us that it's like you kind of lose sight of all that.
Yeah, I think it's a unique moment in time too. It's like, obviously, for every one thing that you're seeing there's so many people behind the scenes that aren't sharing that. There's also those that you can go viral, you can have a huge growth spurt. And is that sustainable? Like, do you crush for 6 months to a year? Like, I could speak for ourselves. We've grown at different rates over the years. It's been different. And that's, like I said, we're very, lots happened in our 5 years. And anyone building a business, it's not what you do in a month or a year even. It's what that you have, like sustainability, like infrastructure you're building for it. Is it going in a direction that you're, setting it up to withstand challenging markets, change in consumer interest? Like, there's a business evolves. It's like a human. It's never, we're like, all of us humans have good seasons and we're great and we could share to the world, hey, I'm crushing it, dude. And then life happens, man. And there's a death in the family, or, you get sick and things like that just happens. And an organization is no different. It is a true, it's an entity that has life behind it. It's people that are building it. So I think it's also hard from a social perspective for people to like, we want to hear relatability, but we don't all want to hear your losses and how hard it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's also not overly what I'm wanting to follow all the time. Like I said, I love being in my founder groups because that is a place, it's a safe place that I can really be transparent and vulnerable into what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think as a founder, CEO, or when you're like the head of an organization, it's part of that responsibility is you need to carry, it's not for you to share with everyone. Like you get the big bucks, or if you don't get the big, like you get the opportunity at the outsized return to carry that weight. And you need to find outlets where you can like, I don't want to say unload that weight, but having a place that you can process that. Um, but it's not necessarily for your employees to hear. That's not what they sign, it's like that's not part of their job description. So there is a bit of like, you gotta, you gotta keep it, you gotta keep it to yourself sometimes. So I think it's important that, people setting out in their journey, it's like you see what's out there, dude, that's not any true person that's been through thick and thin with a business that has built anything that any one of us is inspired by or impressed by has been jabbed in the face, has doubted if it's going to work, has questioned everything, or else it's not real. Like you haven't done
Mhm.
it yet. I would say like, cool, sit back. Like, I remember the first time we got sued or a lawsuit came to us. That was like jarring to me. Like, holy shit. Like I'm out to create incredible positivity and impact on lives. And it's like, by going big, you're gonna have people that get frustrated with you. You mess up or a difference of opinion. It's just scale. And I remember I was like, and I had a mentor that said, "Cool, you finally made it, dude. Like, congrats. Like you're in the game."
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, got it. It was like a badge of honor almost to have that happen. So, uh, I think it's the challenge. If you're not being challenged or you're not doubting it, and you're not questioning it, it's like you haven't really gone through it yet.
Yeah. I mean, there's totally like a beauty to that as well. I was just laughing as you were saying that because like I went a very long time with no negative feedback with the business. And I was like, oh, let's go, whatever. And then I had a week, maybe 3 weeks ago, where I got just slammed. It was just like I don't, you know how things go sometimes. Sometimes when it rains, it pours with like just some negative stuff. And I was like, oh shit, like I kind of felt the weight of it a little bit more. I was like thinking about it maybe a little bit more than I should have been. And I told my dad, and I just remember him, he was just cracking up laughing because he was somebody who worked as a customer service rep for a very long time. And he was like, yeah, like no shit. Like that's business. Like that's, nobody's gonna be happy with everything. And it's just like it's just that perspective of and the beauty of being, in the game and kind of having that uh thing to just kind of keep to yourself. And there's like a beauty to, that's your thing, and that's all right.
Yeah, I think one of the skill sets of someone building something that's growing and evolving, it's like you have to carry a lot of true things at once. Like that, whatever that negative feedback you got, it's like whether there's truth in there or not, but you have to listen to that. You got to hear that. You got to hear what's working with the customers. There's so much honesty and they're both true. Like, man, we came up short here and we're crushing it here. Like in an absolute of one or the other, I'm the best or I'm the worst, but
Hmm.
equally are both true, and you have to tackle both appropriately. And so I think that is uh, and I think that's a part of, you asked like earlier, what stress, and it's like, to me, that has just grown. Like, holy shit, this is incredible on one side. And whoa, we really need to focus and work here. And there is we need to improve this or focus on this. And both are true. And so that's been, I think, the more we can get comfortable with carrying dual perspectives, it's the further we can go.
No doubt about it. Goes back to some of our ayahuasca type of conversations.
Yeah, yeah,
um
truly. It's like those teachings are present because those are universal truths. Paradoxes to me are the absolute truths. There's nuance to it all. Uh, so that's where psychedelics absolutely come into play in holding a lot at the same time.
I've been curious about this. dichotomy almost of like, and it's almost like one of those things that I'm sure it's a combination. And I was trying to think through, as a business owner, the which one of these three things is the most important? Is it like consistent hard work, a willingness to take risks, or a the right skill set for the business? And it's interesting. I think it's almost one of those things. It's like a complete combination of those. But I was just curious from your perspective of, where you guys are at right now and in that journey. Because sometimes, there's days for me that require 12 hours, and then there's other days that I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of there's not much going on today, and there's a guilt that kind of creeps in, with that. So I was just curious your perspective on that dichotomy of those three things.
Yeah, I mean, the consistent hard work, I that can never go away. Like that is like, and that could be a day where it's, are you working 8, 12 hours, whatever. There's a shift, but it's like you are constantly in the game. Like you're not, there's levels of checking out and there's levels of staying focused. And I think those that can stay focused and endure and consistently work at something are, that has, like, no one's ever succeeded without that, is what I'm getting at. Um, willingness to take risk. I think that is, um, that's very much a perspective to me that just is really hard to quantify. Like people look at, you started Plunge, what a risk. Who knew if anyone was going to buy it? Like to me, that was like the least risky thing I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh, it was like, that's just my nature. That's my viewpoint on it. Like it would have been the riskiest thing to not do it. And so that's like a perspective. So it's like, I think it's more seeing opportunity when it's there and taking action, which goes into consistent hard work. It's like when there's the opportunity, like, do you dwell on it? Do you think of reasons why you shouldn't do it? But if you see an opportunity, move. Like it doesn't have to be grandiose, but take action towards it. So more of Eileen of like bias to action is like where, which fits into this consistent hard work. And number 3, I think you talked about skill set. That is, look, I started Plunge and I have, plenty of other interviews where I talk about this, but I was cutting PVC pipe building coal plunges. And for anyone that knows me, like this is construction or being handy is like the farthest from my skill set. Not only is it not my skill set, it's actually like very uncomfortable for me. Like it's like I
Yep.
have a weird, like don't need to psychoanalyze it, but it's like, so when I'm
You have
starting,
an aversion to it.
very much so, like,
Yeah.
viscerally in my body and like somatically, it's like uncomfortable. And I had success before Plunge, but here I am in a garage being an assistant to my co-founder, helping him glue and build these coal plunges, which I was so insecure about. So it was not my skill set, but equally I knew, okay, I know what your skill set is. Your skill set is, you know, taking action to the next thing you need to get to. And I knew we were going to eventually hire someone. We get these first 20 units out, we sell them, we'll have enough money to go bring in someone that's way better at doing this than I am. And I could go get on the phones and start calling people and, doing things that were more into my ability. So I think it's like, having an awareness to what your skill set is, like knowing that, being a founder, being at any level, you're going to do things you don't want to do. Can you build out of it? Can you have the awareness to know what you're great at, what you're not great at, how to delegate, how to bring other people in? And so that's like a constant. That's never going to go away. Like no matter what level you're at, like starting out from business planning to being the CEO of Apple, like you are constantly. That's an evolution of self-awareness. So I think if I were to, they're all vitally important. I would say like the bias to action and consistent hard work um, are pretty underlying criticals to have ultimate success.
Would you kind of just like call that like an ability to like chew glass almost, or like win via endurance, in the sense of just like you win the game by staying in the game, and
100%.
by yeah.
It, can you, yeah, you said chew glass. Can you stay in the mud longer than anyone else? And that's not an absolute truth. It's not just chewing glass. Like, you have to be critically honest and aware of the things to work on. And, the people I see, even outside founders, just in my, or let's just take Plunge or companies that I've run, it's like those that get promoted, those that take on more in the company, they can keep the most important thing the most important thing. There's always 50 things to work on. I don't care what level you're at. You're a entry level, uh, you know, rep in like abroad that's on the phones to, an executive. You have 50 tasks you can do. That's the truth. However, those that can focus on the most important thing and not let that overwhelm them and stay like, they win. They're the ones that get promoted. They're the ones that get more responsibility. They're the ones that actually move business impact forward.
I'm so glad you brought that up because um I have written down here the one thing, like in my notes of things I wanted to bring up to you because it was my birthday a little over a month and a half ago, and I went out to dinner with my journal that I had since that past year, and kind of the journal kind of evolved to just talking to myself about the business in the past year, versus like genuine self reflection. And I kind of looked back at like my goals for that year and kind of where I was at the moment, and I completely like fell short in pretty much every category of them. And I kind of sat there and just reflected on, why things kind of felt like there was a little bit of stagnation. And the conclusion I came to was like, I was a one man team at the time, and it's like I'm trying to wear so many different hats within the business that almost no one element of like I didn't have that North Star, if you will, or that one thing that if I can just do this one thing, it's going to move, the business forward. And it was just kind of like jumping from task to task and kind of losing sight of that thing. Um, and it seems like time and time again now, since I've had that realization, it's like every successful entrepreneur that I speak with or that I listen to on a podcast or something, it's like always this one guiding principle of, find that most important thing or that 80/20 that's moving you forward and like quadruple down on that thing.
100%. I think it's, that evolves, that shifts. There's like obviously like core values and things that are like underlying to mission and things like that. But I would say like the tasks we work on every day, like genuinely do I feel this is the most impactful, important thing to be moving, uh, moving the business forward. And that goes to every level of whether you're, like I said, manager in customer support, or you are, a quality control same roles in our company, to, an executive that oversees all of our B2B sales. Like, what is the thing that is most critical that I can work on today, this week, that is, at the core? I think it also goes to an organization to set out what the goals are of the company, because not every employee, I'm speaking for employees now, like not every employee knows what is the most important thing. So we need to stress as a leadership team, leader, myself, what are quarterly, annually, what are our core areas of focus? For us right now, we shifted from high growth to, very profitable focus. There was every company goes through this where it's like top line to, EBITDA profitability. And there's just different conflicting incentives to that.
Mhm.
Rev, it's less efficiency. When you're top line, less efficiency, growth. How do we get more units out? Unit economics don't matter as much. We want to see that number go up to, okay, we're focusing on the bottom line, efficiency, process, systems. It's just different to how we incentivize the team. And so I think, it takes leadership to lay out what the most important thing is. And then from there, it's on the teams and individuals to find, how do I move this piece forward the best?
Do you feel like with that, it's almost like, because I feel like from my perspective of like a bootstrapped business, my mindset from day one was always like, profit, making money, trying to kind of keep moving the business forward. But I was thinking more recently about just like almost like the bodybuilding perspective of like bulk and cut, where you have time periods where you're focused more on revenue, and then it's like this cut period, and then you realize, damn, I'm kind of shredded. We got some good profit going in the business, and then kind of these endless cycles. Do you feel like that is a good way to think about it?
Yeah, I do. I think there's like, it's being, again, hyper aware of what you want out of the business, like what are the goals, where are people trying to take it? Um, are you going through, is innovation on the horizon? Like there's cost to innovation. Are we, I think uh, for us, we had no choice but to grow early on. Like, I'll speak for myself at Plunge. Like sales were just, no matter what we did, sales were going up. There was a category that was emerging, not many options out there. Boom, we are growing like crazy. It wasn't a choice. I never want any bad juju on sales coming in. And I look back, be like, man, it would have been great if we were growing at maybe half that speed. We could have maybe avoided some stuff. So at some point you just gotta grow and hires, and you have less time to think about it, and you got to take action. As I think we've learned, with that, we launched, like in 2024, we launched 11 products. Took us, some of those project development cycles were 2 years. That was like crazy. I would never put that team back through it again. That was a learning lesson for myself of like, this product development innovation was just too much for a number of factors, from a cash perspective, from a overhead perspective needed, from a product launch perspective. You want more times in between. You want to let each product breathe for a moment, have its moment in the market. From a support standpoint, getting the whole team up to speed on all these products, like, that was something that we bulked up too much. We overbulked, to your
Yeah.
analogy. And then you have to lean out. So I think it's less of like, you got to be really, the pulse, you have to have a good pulse of your business. Like there's the moments of like, sometimes you got to act really quick of like, oh, we need to pull back, or this is that moment we didn't expect. Holy shit, we're seeing some real wins here. Gas it, go, and so it's like, and that's just like, however tight you can get the feedback loops of what's going on into the signal, into the business, I think are, um, gets you more aware of what's going on in the business, but also you can move and shift quicker.
You said like you would have avoided a lot of that stuff if you guys weren't growing as fast. Was that literally just like kind of just when you're going at light speed, you don't have the staff, and then all this kind of like the supply side of things starting to kind of collapse just because you're like a bit undermanned? Is that kind of what breaks in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's a mix of all of that. I could say from a product perspective, you ship, like, we're in the hardware business, like very unique, complicated products,
Mm-hmm.
and
Big products.
big products, and like, just let's say big bulkiness of shipping. Obviously, we test all the products and how they ship. When you're launching 11 products over 10 months, maybe all 11 don't get the full focus they need on the shipping logistics side of it. And you turn into, everything has a 10% higher damage in transit rate than you want.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so it's like, that's a trade-off that you can't predict. But if you were only launching one, you're maybe more focused, and that 10% is 2% issue. And so there is these downstream impacts that you can't always calculate and foresee. Growing super quick. We're hiring a ton of people. Hiring is the hardest thing in the world. Like, no one has figured that out. To get humans in an interview structure, you win some, you lose some. I don't care. I would say majority, if you get like an all-star over half the time, you are really good at hiring. But then that's not an incredible hit rate. You're still missing
Mhm.
almost half the time. And that's a challenge. Now you have humans involved that, ideally they came in and they're moving it forward, or they didn't, and you have to address that. But if you're growing quicker and you're hiring maybe at a faster rate, that's now more downstream challenges that you have. So it, it goes to like, there's just trade-offs into and unforeseen consequences. for decisions, made at scale and speed.
I mean, I think looking back during our first podcast, I don't even think like AI was really, I don't even know if ChatGPT was even out yet. Uh, and I'm just thinking it now about like, all the things that you're saying and with hiring and kind of just the future of everything. Has there been like a noticeable effect of AI like within, because obviously, your product is it's a physical product, and that isn't something that AI is going to disrupt in that sense, but in the sense of like the systems and the behind the scenes stuff, has it been helpful? Has that been, anything kind of changed within the business from like, this kind of crazy growth of AI in the past couple years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There has been. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think like that was not something we would have discussed 3 years ago, and now you can't go down the street without hearing about AI.
Mhm.
Um, in a hardware manufacturing business, I think we're a little ways away from robots coming into the like. I don't. I know a lot of work's being done there. That to me is it's not even something we think about. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
internally. It's less of like how does AI fill roles in the company? It's more of like how do we just make our team more efficient? What more can we do? And I think that's been um our focus. I think there's a lot of cool tech integrations we've implemented, all the way from just our front end chatbot. That's like a much more um, you know
Useful.
useful, simple mechanism that's a better user experience. But still, humans on our back end can interact with it if they want. We can jump in. I know like our production team and marketing has a lot, of use of AI in there. Ultimately, I think I'm most like hear a lot of founders say this. It's like, I don't see AI taking your job specifically, but if you're not using AI in your job, like you're going to fall behind. And that's the opportunity for all of us right now. I think um, it's a great tool to be utilized. I also think it's happening quick, so I'm not here to ignorantly say like it's not happening, but we're still a little ways out till this like fully everything that's being sold is this is what's happening.
Mhm.
It's not fully that yet. I get where it's coming and there's things that we can't even foresee yet that this will integrate into. However, it's again, having been someone that's, deep diving into this, it's never quite as perfect as it's sounding right now. There's still a lot of, but it's happening quick. So I hold both those true.
Very true. I mean, the intro of this podcast, that was like a 600 character response when I asked for 280 characters. Um, but no, I mean, it's such a fascinating conversation. I've been keen to bring it up like more recently, just because it is really interesting to hear about like the integrations of it, because it's all just so new, and everyone has like these different use cases for it. But it seems like, no matter who I talk to, it all kind of echoes that sentiment that you just said of like, it's not there yet where it's taking everybody's job, but in the sense of helping you do your job better and more efficiently is where it's kind of really shining.
Yeah, I mean, I think areas that it has, like, I just look at, like, we've been able to do a lot more legal through there.
Mm,
Um, obviously we still run most like our big contracts or things through our, legal counsel, but there are things that we can quickly do that work and feel confident. That's, half the time that's what legal is. Can you feel confident to go commit to something? That's huge. I think the underlying technologies for our customer support platforms are, full like have a real AI support to them. We're not like AI reps, like we have humans that talk to people and communicate to people, but AI on the front end does help us. Our product is a unique product in the sense that it's at your home. We need videos. We need like you call in. I have an issue with my cold plunge. Great. Okay. You could say I have a leak, and a leak could mean you have condensation. a leak could mean, oh shit, you have a leak and this is leaking out. It could be a drop coming from a certain spot that you didn't tighten the filter tight. Like, so from a consumer, it's I have a leak, but it's this whole range of things. So we need assets to understand what's going on. And so that's where AI has been a huge win for us. And that's where it's going is like, getting a video uploaded, letting AI decipher what's going on in that video, kind of synthesizing that for our rep. And then our rep can be like, oh, got it. Like, I didn't have to go through this whole video. I now have got like the cliff notes of what's going on here. They can move quicker
Mhm.
and solve more cases at a more rapid pace. That's like a place that, AI has come massively for us. Our post production, those costs have come down dramatically. Like, I'm sure for you, like echo noise and background noise and things like that, there are a lot of cool, integrations on that front. Um, so, it's cool to see all the areas that it's, developing, but I haven't seen it come in and be like a like for like of a job. Just
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen that
yeah.
one yet.
I have a very selfish question I wanted to ask you about, which is, selling a product that is pretty high ticket in the like, selling a 'cause when I try to do research on this for myself, because our AOV is above 500, it's like 527 or something like that, and when I try to do research on kind of attacking e-commerce high ticket stuff, I always kind of hear about, like, high ticket coaching and high ticket there's not a lot of info out there when it comes to the, uh, selling high ticket e-commerce stuff, and I've just been very keen to hear and learn about, like, how to sell such a high ticket physical product on the internet where, traditionally when someone's making a physical product purchase like that, they want to go to the store and kind of touch and feel it and, um, conversion rate and all these things, social proof. Like, how have you guys kind of, what have you kind of learned about selling something higher ticket in the e-commerce world?
I mean, it's all those things that you discussed. I think there are some that move the needle more. Like you obviously want a frictionless website. You want, conversion rate optimization. You want to be targeting that. I think some are more important than others, but that's like a simple one. I think, we have evolved a lot into our like, yeah, this over 500 is, you guys are in the high ticket category. We're in an AOV of 6,000 plus. Um, so we're, its own unique place of, I liken it to potentially like a car. We're obviously not as expensive as most cars, but like, or any cars,
It's a
but
good perspective.
you're in that, it's all, once you get to that level, there's that thought process. There's a financing that goes into it. There is um, so I think it's important to know what your margin is. And I think it's important to know what you can spend as an acquisition cost. What goes into that? Can you run promotions with someone? Can you give extra deals on a pop-up? Can you uh segment your emails and off give up offers to it? Because at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for, incentives to buy. Obviously you need great storytelling, you need great product. Like that has to start. That gets people into your funnel. That you never can beat that. And then I think for high ticket, how you can get referrals and word of mouth is like, that's the flywheel. People, especially in the health and wellness space, which you're in, we're in, I've seen people want to share more than if they are having success and impact on something related to their health or their family's health. And so how you create structure around that and really, I, I would look at like from you guys, I would really track that. Where is our referral rate right now? As simple as just a post purchase survey. Making sure at checkout, go add that in. Is it perfect? No, but you're going to get real signal into where people are coming from. And for us, we have a target number on a referral, family and friend referral basis, and like our previous customer mixed with family and friend referral, and we need to be in a certain category that shows first, like if you're getting a referral, that means the product is working because no one is going to share something they don't like. And so that's an important metric to look at. I think the more high ticket you go, the more concierge you want to go. There's a reason, I think Tesla broke this model, and there's something to be said about that. Tesla kind of went e-commerce on cars. You could go buy a Tesla online. It's a very frictionless experience, and I think that's incredible. And we really model after that. But there's also what the car salesman dynamic. People hate it. I think it's gone so far into a bad direction, but there is a reason they had built this model that you need to talk to a human. And we're going to get you in here. We're going to talk you through our cars. And so I think the higher ticket you go, the more you can involve a human interaction. Usually you have a little more margin the higher ticket you are. Ideally, that's what I say, like figure out your margin structure of where you can fit extra cost in. And usually the higher you go, the more, elastic the price is, the less impactful it is on certain people. So I think it's all those things, like, and it's a constant, there wasn't one silver bullet I had there, but
Mhm.
it's all of those things play a factor.
It's interesting. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize your AOV was that high. But people have this perspective that if anything is above, I think the number is like $2,000. Like you need to speak to a human in order to get the sale. And I was just thinking about that recently because I saw Alex Hormozy kind of broke that during his book launch, where he was selling like these bundles of books for $6,000, and people were blown away that he was doing like direct to cart checkout versus a salesman. Uh, it's just interesting. It's fascinating seeing kind of how you guys are thinking about it, and are you guys doing like with referrals? Is it almost like an affiliate program in the sense of how
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
structured?
have we cracked it? No. There are some that, you get kickbacks, store credit, higher amounts on store credit. So there's like links that we track. We do have like compensation and incentive structures there. We have a pretty sophisticated app that we've built, our proprietary app that, uh, so there's a lot of functionality that we have through there. Um, and more, you just get people that don't want a dollar and they just want to tell their friends. This thing is awesome. You would love it. So that is like, so it's, ours is as simple as we have a post-purchase survey that is, I don't even know what it's, $50 a month on our website or something that we pay for, but it's probably one of the best tools that we have. We could spend so much on all our marketing tools, and that is one that's like really I dig into and look at consistently. Um, and back to your point of like this e-commerce, like they want to talk to a human. It's like both. There are worlds where, I mean, we still see over half that don't talk to a human. They'll go check out what people check out at 25K, buying a sauna and a plunge, and they didn't speak to anyone. Um, so there is still that world that like, that's what they want. I want a frictionless checkout. I want my answers question. Like that's a good signal for us too. Cool. We answered this person's questions. They had confidence to go make this purchase. And then there are those that are like going to take 6 months going back and forth with a human, to walk themselves to a spot where they're ready. And that's absolutely okay. And both are, we need to accommodate to.
Ryan, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for taking the time to do this today. Anything we'd be remiss if we didn't mention? Anything that's been on your mind or think we should mention before we close out here?
I would say just on cold plunging, the myth is you need to be in the 30 degrees for 5 minutes. If you're starting out 55 degrees for 2 minutes, start there. Learn how to regulate your heart while you're in the cold. Bring your heart rate down, and that is it's a growing misconception that we have noticed in the world of cold plunging. So, um, and yeah, 55 degrees, 2 minutes if you're starting out.
That is a big one. So I got a plunge. I think in our last episode I told you like that was one of my goals for the year was be able to get the plunge. So I got the plunge and I realized that like when I stopped kind of trying to feed my ego and like, oh, I could go whatever, I used the plunge like 10 times more because it was just
Yep.
so much more approachable when I was at like 52 degrees versus freaking 30 degrees. Like I could actually do it and it felt the same obviously when you get out like you still feel those benefits of it, but No, that's a very great point. Ryan, I appreciate you again, dude. Thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Thanks, Ryan. It was great. Look forward to checking in another year or so.
Yes, sir.